My name is Riley Maddox. I'm 36 years old, and somewhere along the way, I became the kind of woman people point at in business articles about self-made success. I own a couple of restaurants. It sounds glamorous if you've never done it. In reality, it's grease under your nails, numbers in your head at 3 a.m., and learning how to smile at customers while you're mentally calculating payroll. It's a tough business, but I've done well for myself. Well enough that I no longer wake up terrified about money. Well enough that people who wouldn't have given me the time of day 10 years ago suddenly know my name. One of those people is, or was, my fiancé. His name is Evan Carter, 29, beautiful, in that polished, magazine-spread way. We've been together 3 years, engaged for 6 months. He comes from the kind of family that has portraits older than my family's last name. Old money, old expectations, old habits of looking at people like me, the way you'd regard a stray dog that somehow learned to use a knife and fork. Evan's parents live in a house that isn't just big, it's curated. Every piece is a conversation starter, every room is a flex. His mother once told me, with a smile, that their home had been featured in some architecture magazine when Evan was a teenager. I pretended I'd heard of it. The engagement was a production. I'd imagined something small and honest, maybe in one of my restaurants after closing. Candles on the tables, staff hiding in the kitchen pretending not to listen. What I got was a drone filming us on a cliff top, a hidden photographer, and a ring box that looked like it had its own publicist. When I opened it, though, I forgot to be cynical. The ring was beautiful, classic, elegant, a diamond that caught the sunset and threw it back in 1,000 pieces. It wasn't some gaudy status symbol. It actually felt like me. Simple, clean lines, timeless. I cried. I said yes. Of course I did. For a little while, I let myself believe that this was about us. Not him, not his parents, not the people who would zoom in on the ring on Instagram. A few weeks later, Evan came over to my place with this strained, serious expression I'd never seen on him before. He sat at my kitchen island, the one I'd had installed after my first restaurant finally broke even, and took my hands like he was about to tell me he'd cheated or gotten someone pregnant. Instead, he talked about the ring. "It's beautiful, Riley, really," he said. "And when someone starts a sentence like that, you know what follows won't be. But my mom and a few friends mentioned that it doesn't exactly feel like you or like us." I remember staring at him, then at the diamond on my finger, suddenly seeing it through their eyes. Maybe it didn't scream the right designer name. Maybe it didn't match the idea of Evan Carter's future wife. He showed me another ring on his phone, more modern, intricate, from some high-end designer whose logo I'd only ever seen in ads on the sides of taxis. "The way I picture you, this is more fitting," he said, trying to sound gentle and failing. I feel bad bringing it up, but I just can't stop thinking about it. The way he described it, you'd think this ring was the key to eternal happiness, world peace, and a perfectly curated wedding hashtag. I'm not stupid. I knew what was happening. This wasn't about the ring. It was a benchmark, a test, a financial and social hurdle his world was quietly placing in front of me. If you really belong here, you can clear this. If you really love him, you'll prove it in carrots and branding. But I loved him, or I loved who I thought he was, which feels the same until it doesn't. So I did what I've done my whole life when someone slid an impossible bill across the table. I started doing the math. I told him we could look into upgrading, but it might take some time. I was in the middle of opening a new location. My cash was tied up. I couldn't just sneeze and produce an extra tens of thousands of dollars. He pouted, the way a grown man shouldn't know how to, and then smoothed it over with a kiss and a "we'll figure it out, babe." The wedding planning didn't wait for us to figure it out. His mother was on fire, vineyard venue, designer florist, a string quartet that had allegedly played for minor royalty. Every decision carried a price tag that read less like a number and more like a dare. Mostly I paid. Evan contributed some, but there was always a reason it couldn't be more. Timing, bonuses, investments that were about to come through. His parents framed their lack of financial contribution as letting you kids build your own story, which was a poetic way of saying, you can pay, we just won't. Which is how I ended up on their back patio last Saturday night, holding a glass of wine that cost more than my first month's rent in this city, pretending I didn't notice that my chair was just 1 inch farther from the table than everyone else's. The evening was a performance. His father spent 20 minutes explaining his latest yachting trip in a way that mostly highlighted how he didn't consider boats with fewer than 4 bedrooms to be real vessels. His mother made a face over the bottle of wine I'd brought. A nice one I'd asked my sommelier about. "Oh, this is sweet," she said. "We usually use this as a table wine, but it's charming that you like it." I smiled. I've learned how to turn humiliation into data. Every comment, every side eye, filed away with a neat little label. After dinner, people drifted. Evan went inside to help his mother with dessert, which meant standing in the kitchen, scrolling his phone while she told him what to carry. His father disappeared into his study. His nieces ran off somewhere with iPads. I stepped onto the patio for air. It was quiet out there, the kind of manicured stillness that only exists when someone pays a gardener way too much money. String lights glowed overhead. The pool was lit from within, a perfect turquoise rectangle. I was halfway through my glass when I heard the door slide open behind me. "Riley, mind if I join you?" Delilah stepped out. Evan's older sister, early 30s, razor-sharp blazer over a silk top, heels even on a stone patio. She works in finance, which makes sense. She smiles like someone who knows everyone's balance sheet. "Of course," I said, "because what else do you say in enemy territory?" She stood next to me, close but not touching. Both of us staring out at the lawn like there was something fascinating about hedges. "So," she started lightly, "big day getting closer. Getting nervous yet?" "Only about the seating chart," I said. "Apparently you can start wars with the wrong table assignments." She laughed politely. Not real laughter, the kind you could buy in a corporate workshop. A beat of silence. Then she shifted, just slightly, turning her body more toward me. Her voice dropped half a level. "Look, Riley, I'm saying this because I want my brother to be happy. And honestly, I want you to be happy too." I felt my spine go cold in advance. This was the preamble to something ugly. She kept her eyes on the lawn. "Evan isn't completely sure about the wedding." I didn't move. The words hit me like a cold wave, but they weren't a surprise. They were a confirmation of a feeling I'd been folding neatly and shoving into a mental drawer for months. She rushed on like she had to get it out before she lost nerve. "He cares about you, obviously. You've been good for him. But he's used to a certain lifestyle, a certain standard. And he has options. People he grew up with. People who match that world in a different way." There it was. I was tolerated, but not quite a fit off the rack. "The ring is a big thing for him," she continued. "It's symbolic. It shows you understand what he needs, what he deserves. To be blunt." She finally looked at me. "If you get him the ring he really wants, the one he's been showing everyone, it'll settle his doubts. He'll go through with it. He'll be happy. It'll smooth everything over." She said it like she was offering me a shortcut, a cheat code. Buy the right piece, unlock the man. I took a slow sip of wine to cover the fact that my hands wanted to shake. A part of me wanted to ask 1,000 questions. How long has he been unsure? Is there someone else? Is this your idea or his? Instead, I heard my own voice come out smooth, almost bored. "That's a very specific suggestion, Delilah." She gave a tiny shrug, a little smirk. "I'm just being honest. Think of it as an investment in your future. Sometimes you have to spend to secure what matters, right?" You of all people understand that. There it was again, a transaction where my heart should have been. I smiled. I don't know what my face looked like, but whatever it was, it reassured her. She patted my arm, a condescending little touch, and drifted back inside, heels clicking softly. When the door slid shut behind her, the silence on the patio changed. 10 minutes earlier, it had been peaceful. Now it hummed, buzzed. "She thinks I'll buy him. She thinks this is about whether I can afford the price of being chosen." The hurt was sharp, but it didn't swallow me. Something else rose up beside it. Rage, yes, but not the wild kind. This was cool, focused. The same feeling I get when a supplier tries to sneak a bad clause into a contract. For the rest of the night, I played my role. I laughed at his father's jokes. I complimented his mother's dessert. I kissed Evan on the cheek when he wrapped his arm around my waist, oblivious. But inside, something had shifted. He thought he was the prize. His family thought they were the kingdom. They had no idea the woman they were weighing on a scale had already started planning how to flip the table. Later, lying in bed next to Evan, listening to his easy, unbothered breathing, I stared at the ceiling and counted numbers in my head. Not balances this time, moves. This wasn't going to be an emotional, messy meltdown. This was going to be a restructuring. And by the time I finally drifted off, the decision was made. I was done auditioning to be bought. If they wanted a transaction, I'd show them what happens when the investor walks away. I didn't sleep. Not really. I drifted in and out of shallow, restless half-dreams, while Evan slept beside me like a man with no worries in the world. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Delilah's polished smile, heard her voice in that cool, condescending whisper. Think of it as an investment in your future. By dawn, something inside me had hardened to steel. If this was an investment, then I was pulling out. And the first step of a clean exit is always the same. Stop the money. I was in my office at home by 7 a.m., laptop open, coffee untouched. A six-figure wire transfer, my wire transfer, was scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday morning to the Vineyard venue Evan's mother had chosen like it was her coronation. I dialed my bank's business line. The representative, a man named Caleb with a calm voice trained for financial crises, confirmed the cancellation. Of course, Ms. Maddox, the transfer will not go through. 5 minutes. That's all it took to topple the first domino in the Carter family's perfect plan. I hung up and stared at my screen. The digital receipt confirming the cancellation glowed like a match. I imagined Evan's mother's face when the venue called her. The thought didn't bring joy. Not yet. What I felt was clarity. Cold. Surgical. Next, I opened a new browser tab. Not for diamonds. For cars. A 1969 Camaro. Midnight blue. Restored to perfection. I'd wanted one since I was 22 and broke, scraping tips off sticky bar top counters. I used to walk past a garage near my old apartment just to look at one through the window. Back then, dreams like that belonged to other people. Now, it was pocket change compared to the ring Evan's world demanded. I found the car in a town 2 hours away. The seller picked up on the second ring. We haggled for 15 minutes. He didn't know he'd already won. I wanted the car more than I'd ever wanted a piece of jewelry. By the time I ended the call, we had a meeting scheduled for Monday at noon. The price? Almost identical to what Evan's real ring would have cost. Perfect. Then came the part I enjoyed the least and executed the fastest. Evan had slowly, subtly colonized my home. Shirts in my closet, designer sneakers by the door, a home gym setup I never asked for, random gadgets he bought on a whim and left on my counters like offerings to the gods of consumerism. It wasn't that I hated his things. I hated what they symbolized, that my space had become an extension of his comfort, not our life. At 10 a.m., I hired a high-end moving company, the kind that wraps your shoelaces individually and charges you extra for oxygen. Their destination? Delilah Carter's house. Of course, she was the one who delivered the message. She could deal with the consequences of being the chosen messenger. I found her address online in under a minute. When the moving coordinator asked, "Will someone be there to receive the boxes?" I smiled the way she had smiled at me last night. "Oh yes," I said, "they're expecting it." I paid extra for same-day service. Monday morning was a ballet of quiet destruction. At 8 o'clock a.m. sharp, the movers arrived at my door. I walked them through the house, pointing to everything that belonged to Evan. "Everything?" one mover asked gently. "Everything," I said. They wrapped his clothes, his colognes, his protein powders, his cufflinks, his smartwatch collection, even the half-empty bottle of expensive shampoo he insisted on leaving in my shower. 3 hours later, my house felt lighter, bigger, mine. The moving truck pulled away, a caravan of Evan's curated life headed straight for his sister's immaculate front lawn. At 11:35, a locksmith arrived. New locks, new codes, new entry permissions. It wasn't pettiness, it was protection. The version of me who had believed in Evan deserved that. At noon, I drove to the seller's home. The Camaro was even more beautiful in person. Sharp, loud, honest. Everything my relationship with Evan had never been. I paid in cash. The man raised an eyebrow at the duffel bag. "Rough breakup?" he joked. I smiled. Clean restructuring. I drove the car home with the windows down, the wind whipping the tension out of my chest. The engine roared like freedom. I parked it in my driveway, right where Evan would see it the moment he pulled up, and that was when the first call came in. 3:15 p.m., the Vineyard. A frantic event manager, a missed payment, a forfeited deposit, a contract in Evan's name. I kept my voice calm. "Oh, you'll want to speak with Evan. He handles all the communication. His name is on the contract, right?" She confirmed it. "Perfect. Please contact him directly." I hung up. 10 seconds later, my phone buzzed again. "Evan." "Perfect." I let it ring twice before I answered. His voice was already cracking. Riley, what the hell is going on? I stepped onto my porch, leaned against the Camaro, and let the sunlight warm my face. His world was about to burn, and I wasn't going to lift a single finger to stop it. Evan didn't ease into it. He didn't breathe, didn't buffer, didn't even pretend to approach this like a man who loved me. He went straight to rage. They said the payment was canceled! He yelled so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Riley, what the hell are you doing? The venue said the deposit might be forfeited. Why would you do this? I let him finish screaming. I waited until his breathing hit that uneven, panicked rhythm I'd heard only once before, the day he thought he'd lost his phone with all his crypto logins. When he finally paused, I spoke calmly. I canceled it because a new piece of information came to light. What information? He demanded. I looked at the Camaro's glossy hood, watched the sunlight ripple across it like a living thing. Your sister, I said. Delilah pulled me aside last night. She told me you weren't sure about the wedding unless you got the ring you really want. She told me if I upgraded it, you'd go through with it. Silence. Long, heavy, thick silence. Riley, she was probably joking, Evan said, voice suddenly fragile, desperate. No, I said. She wasn't. And even if she was, you didn't shut this down. You never have. Your family treats me like an audition, Evan. I heard him swallow. Okay, listen, just come home. We'll talk. We'll fix it. You overreacted, that's all. Fix? I repeated softly. This isn't fixable, not because of the money, but because you let them define the terms of our marriage. He tried again, voice rising. Riley, the venue is in my name, my credit, my reputation. Do you understand what this will look like? My family. Your family, I cut in, has been looking down on me since day one. I don't owe them a clean departure. That's when his tone changed. He went cold. Are you breaking off the engagement? He asked. There it was, his real concern. Not losing me, losing the appearance of stability, losing the Carter family narrative of the beautiful wedding. Yes, I said, I am. Something shattered on his end. A gasp, a stifled curse, maybe a glass thrown. Riley, don't do this. Don't talk like that. Not over a miscommunication. It wasn't a miscommunication, I said. It was a business proposal, and I'm rejecting it. He exhaled sharply. So that's it? You're just done? No, I said. I wasn't finished. He froze. My house is no longer your residence, I said evenly. The movers collected your belongings this morning and delivered them to Delilah's address. What? His voice cracked. Actually cracked. What did you... Riley, tell me you're kidding. You wanted your family involved, I said. Now they are. Fully. You're insane, he snapped. You can't just... My things, my suits, my... Riley... Delilah can help you sort it out, I said. She's so deeply invested in our relationship after all. You changed the locks? He asked, sounding almost strangled. Yes, a beat of stunned silence. Then came the threats. The prenup, my mother will destroy you in court. You can't just kick me out. This is illegal. My father knows people. I let him rant. When he finally ran out of breath, I said, Evan, the next time you or your family attempt to threaten me legally, I will go public about what Delilah said. Extortion is a crime. He inhaled, stopped breathing for a second. You wouldn't, he whispered. Try me. And I hung up. It didn't take long for my phone to ring again. Delilah, I answered. She didn't scream at first. She hissed. Riley, what the actual hell did you do? I honored your suggestion, I said. You wanted to negotiate the terms of my engagement. I simply rejected the offer. You sent Evan's things to my house. Yes, I said. You seemed so involved. I thought you could use first-hand experience. Are you crazy? My husband is furious. The neighbors, there are boxes all over my lawn. You're welcome to return his things, I said, just not to my house. There was a sound like she slammed her hand onto a counter. He is devastated. Do you even care? No, I said, not anymore. You'll regret this, she snapped. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret staying with him more. I hung up before she could respond. 15 minutes later, my friend Mark, who happened to live in Delilah's neighborhood, texted me. It was a picture, a massive moving truck, Evan's expensive suits, his gym equipment, his custom furniture, all dumped neatly on Delilah's perfect, pristine yard. In the doorway, Delilah stood shouting at her husband. A neighbor watched from across the street, arms crossed, taking everything in like it was the day's entertainment. Mark's message, what did you do? I sent back a single emoji. By evening, I'd received 6 missed calls from Evan, 3 from Delilah. From his mother. A text from his father that simply said, we will discuss this. 8 messages from mutual friends telling me Evan was devastated. 2 long paragraphs from a bridesmaid explaining how I'd broken a good man. I ignored every one of them. I sat on my back porch, cracked open a cold beer, and watched the sun fall behind my new Camaro. It gleamed like a reward, not for revenge, for clarity, for finally remembering who I was. That night I slept, deeply, peacefully, like someone who had finally stopped paying for a life that was never hers. The next day, the public war would start, and I was ready. I expected Evan to come storming to my house, chest puffed, jaw clenched, ready to perform heartbreak. But he didn't, not that day. Instead, I woke up to a buzzing phone, dozens of notifications exploding across my screen like fireworks. They had begun. The Carter family PR machine. At 8:12 a.m., I received the first screenshot from a friend. A carefully curated Instagram story from Evan's sister. Some people aren't who they pretend to be. Betrayal hurts, but family heals. Nash, protect your own. A picture of a table centerpiece from our canceled venue decorated the background. Dramatic, poetic, manipulative. Minutes later, Evan's mother posted, "Watching your child suffer because of someone's impulsiveness is devastating, but we rise." I wanted to laugh. Impulsive? I had canceled a 6-figure wire transfer, hired movers, changed locks, and purchased a classic car, all with the precision of a military operation. Impulsive was their word for we lost control. Then came Evan. He didn't tag me. He wasn't stupid enough for that. But he posted a black square with the caption, "Sometimes people flip a switch you never saw coming. Heartbroken doesn't begin to describe it." The comments flooded in. "You deserve better." "She didn't appreciate you." "Breakups before weddings are the worst. Stay strong." I closed the app. I didn't need to justify myself, not to them, not to anyone. The truth was sitting in my driveway, gleaming like defiance. At noon, after half a day of silence, I finally opened Instagram. I created a new account. Public. Minimal. I posted one photo. The Camaro. Polished. Radiant. Roaring with everything I felt but never said. The caption. Bought myself something that actually appreciates in value. No regrets. Hashtag freedom. I didn't tag Evan or his family. I didn't have to. By the time I locked my phone, the post already had hundreds of views. Then I noticed something interesting. Marina, Evan's ex-girlfriend, the one he swore he no longer spoke to, had liked the post. I tucked that detail away, a seed for later. The backlash was immediate. At 1:07 p.m., the first text arrived, from one of Evan's groomsmen. "Real classy, Riley." Then, "Evan, delete that post now. You're humiliating me." Evan's mother. "This behavior is beneath you. You are embarrassing yourself." Delilah. "Are you kidding me? You're making this public?" I didn't respond. Instead, I took the Camaro out for a drive, windows down, engine singing like liberation. When I got home, 3 new voicemails waited. Evan's mother crying. His aunt accusing me of being manipulative. His cousin saying, "Evan is broken, Riley. Broken." Funny how no one mentioned the part where he'd needed a luxury ring in exchange for commitment. At 4:32 p.m., she called again. I answered. Her tone wasn't grieving this time. It was cold, sharp, controlled. "Riley," she said, "you need to stop this. Whatever you think you're doing, you're ruining Evan's reputation, and ours." "I haven't said a single word," I replied. "Not one. That's all your family." "This display," she snapped. "Buying a car with the money that should have gone toward your wedding." "Should have," I cut in. "Your daughter-in-law-to-be was not a line item." "You are being vindictive." I almost laughed. "No," I said softly. "I am being factual. If this becomes a legal battle, I will disclose exactly what your daughter told me about the ring." The line went silent, completely silent, because she knew. She knew what that would look like. She knew what the word extortion could do to her daughter's spotless LinkedIn page, her son's precious image, her family's impeccable reputation. When she finally spoke, her voice had lost every bit of composure. "You wouldn't dare." "I don't need to dare," I said. "I only need to tell the truth." I hung up. That night, Marina, yes, the ex, posted a vague story. Funny how the universe reveals everything eventually. One of her followers messaged me anonymously. "You should know he's been talking to her for months." Ah, so Delilah's "he has options" speech had more layers. Evan hadn't just been unsure. He'd been hedging his bets. 2 women, 2 versions of his future, one requiring a designer ring, one requiring nostalgia. He'd been waiting to see which one felt more sparkly under the right lighting. Good thing I burned the stage before he got to pick. At 9:18 p.m., my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. But I knew who it was the moment I answered. His voice was low, measured, threatening. "Riley," he said, "you've made a powerful enemy today." I looked out my window at the Camaro. At my house. At my quiet, reclaimed life. "No," I replied. "I cut my losses, that's all." "You think you can threaten my family?" he growled. "No," I said, "but I can tell the truth, and your daughter's actions, her words, are legally actionable. If you want a public fight, I can give you one. I promise you won't win." He inhaled sharply, but I didn't let him speak. "You can either handle the $20,000 deposit your daughter put down under her name, or you can risk explaining to a judge why your family coerced me into upgrading an engagement ring to secure your son's commitment. Choose wisely." And then I hung up. He never called back. The war wasn't won that day, not fully. But the Carters went silent. Their posts stopped. Their stories disappeared. Their calls dried up. It was the first time I'd ever heard the Carter family swallowed by their own quiet. I slept that night with my windows open and the Camaro keys on my nightstand. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The next chapter wouldn't be about destruction. It would be about revelation. And the truth was about to surface in a way none of them expected. 6 months. It's strange how long that sounds until you live it. 6 months after the Carter implosion, life had taken on a quieter rhythm. My restaurants were thriving again. My mornings weren't filled with passive-aggressive texts from Evan's mother or silent treatment from Delilah. My nights weren't spent building a future around a man who needed his family's approval more than he needed honesty. But just when I thought the fallout had settled into dust, the truth surfaced, slowly, then all at once. It started with a message from someone I'd never met, a woman named Hannah, one of Marina's friends. Her DM was polite, almost hesitant. "Hi, Riley. I know you don't know me, but I think you deserve to know the truth about what happened." Marina didn't want to be dragged into the Carter drama publicly, but Evan was messaging her long before the engagement. Months. "Hope this helps you move on." I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because I was surprised, my intuition hadn't lied, but because I had underestimated how deep Evan's uncertainty ran. He hadn't been unsure about marrying me. He'd been unsure about not getting back with her. And that perfect ring? That designer symbol supposedly proving I understood his worth? It wasn't about showing commitment. It was a deadline, a lock, a strategic cage his sister wanted to snap shut before Marina pulled him back. 2 days later, Marina herself reached out. And to my surprise, she wasn't spiteful or smug. Her message was raw. "I'm sorry, Riley. Truly. I didn't know he was still engaged until everything blew up. Delilah made it sound like you two were rocky, and Evan was confused. I didn't want to interfere." Confused. That word again. People like Evan didn't get confused. They got conflicted. They wanted multiple options lined up, waiting to be chosen like luxury upgrades. Marina continued. "He told me he wasn't sure the relationship felt authentic anymore, that he wasn't sure he fit into your world. I think Delilah panicked. She wanted him settled before he could change his mind." So Delilah hadn't been guarding Evan's heart. She had been guarding her family's image, and I was supposed to be the anchor. Stable, impressive, self-made, financially secure, a perfect ornament to polish the Carter brand. But his heart, his doubts, his emotional infidelity? They hadn't counted on those spilling out. The ring wasn't to reassure me. It was to trap him. I thought back to overheard whispers, late-night work messages Evan always hid when I walked into the room. The sudden tension when Marina's name slipped into a conversation. This wasn't about Delilah being malicious for sport. It was about control. Control of her brother, control of his future, control of their immaculate family narrative. And I had been the solution. The safe choice. The respectable investment. The ring was the price tag they wanted me to accept. But now, all the glossy lies were peeling away. One afternoon, Marina called me. Her voice was soft, a little shaky. "I just wanted to tell you something," she said. "I didn't want to add fuel before, but Evan told me he wasn't sure he was ready for marriage, that it was happening too fast. He said your families didn't fit. He said he needed time." Time. That word thudded like a heartbeat in my ear. Delilah hadn't told me the full truth. Evan hadn't been wavering because of lifestyle differences. He had been wavering because he was keeping one foot inside our relationship and the other in a door Marina never fully closed. Delilah's whisper on the patio now made perfect sense. He has options, you know, but the ring will reassure him. Options. Reassure. Her coded language wasn't about wealth. It was about eliminating competition. They hadn't wanted to test me. They'd wanted to trap him. That Saturday was warm and bright. I was driving my Camaro through the city, music loud, hair messy, sunshine pouring in. I wasn't looking for closure, but closure found me at a bus stop. Evan, alone, head down, suit wrinkled, a cheap briefcase at his feet. The polished shine he'd once worn like armor had dulled into something ordinary. He lifted his head as I passed. He recognized the car before he recognized me. Our eyes met. A tiny flinch crossed his face. Embarrassment, regret, longing, I couldn't tell. Maybe all of it. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I didn't offer meaning to a moment that deserved none. I just drove. The engine drowned out everything. As I turned the corner, something washed over me. Not satisfaction, not triumph. Relief. He was no longer someone I needed to understand. He was just a person in my rearview mirror. A man who tried to choose between two women and ended up losing both. A man who let his family speak for him until their voices became louder than his own. A man who couldn't decide if love was a feeling or a brand. And me? I had finally chosen myself. 6 months was enough time for the dust to settle, enough time for truths to rise, enough time for me to step back into a life that finally felt like mine again. Not borrowed, not judged, not performed. But endings have always been quieter than people expect. They don't arrive with dramatic music or cinematic fireworks. They arrive in small moments, in little pieces. And that's how this story ends. Not with a bang, but with clarity. I never heard from Evan's father again. Not a call, not a letter, not even a smug, condescending voicemail threatening legal war, because he knew. They all knew. If they even tried to sue me, Delilah's words would become part of the record. If you get him the right ring, he'll go through with it. Extortion, coercion, and manipulation. A Carter family legacy no PR team could spin. Instead, they swallowed the $20,000 lost deposit at the vineyard quietly, very quietly. Delilah? The fallout hit her the hardest. That compliance department anonymous tip her firm received, it didn't ruin her career the way rumors claimed, but it did put her under a microscope, enough that she was moved off a high-profile account for the sake of optics. Her marriage suffered too. Apparently her husband didn't appreciate having strangers dump $8,000 worth of Evan's belongings all over their front lawn, or being dragged into a scandal over a ring he didn't even know existed. Family dinners at the Carters became tense, brittle, and filled with invisible fault lines no one dared mention. Evan blamed Delilah. Delilah blamed Evan. Their mother blamed me. Their father blamed the modern dating culture. Which was hilarious, honestly, because none of this had anything to do with modern dating. It was about greed, control, and the belief that love was something you could negotiate. I didn't keep tabs on him, not intentionally, but gossip travels fast, especially among the wealthy, who've always treated drama as a full-contact sport. Evan ended up taking a role at a smaller tech firm. Less prestige, less money. No more promising golden boy. He wasn't seen at charity galas anymore, or yacht parties, or holiday showcases that his mother posted about incessantly. He moved back into a modest apartment, not with his parents, but close enough for convenience. And he never did get back together with Marina. She cut contact completely once she realized what really happened. The last time I heard anything about him, a friend said he'd started focusing on himself. Good. He needed to. He'd spent too long focusing on everyone else's expectations. I didn't just survive the end of that story. I grew out of it. My restaurants flourished. The new location took off faster than I expected. People admired the Camaro everywhere I drove it. Some even asked for pictures with it. I laughed every time, thinking, this is the ring I chose. I started seeing someone too. His name is Lucas. Not a Carter, not polished, not curated. He works in outdoor equipment design. The type of man who fixes things with his hands, prefers hiking boots over loafers, and doesn't give a damn about designer labels. He loves the Camaro. He loves my messy hair on Sunday mornings. He loves that sometimes I forget to rest because I'm too busy dreaming up new restaurant concepts. He love bombs me with gentleness, not conditions. The first night he kissed me, he asked before touching my face. That small act alone undid months of tension I didn't know I was carrying. With him, love isn't a contract. It's comfort. It's warmth. It's a choice made freely, every day. I drove past that same bus stop 2 weeks ago. Evan wasn't there this time. Someone else was. A young woman juggling grocery bags and a crying toddler. She looked exhausted. I glanced in the rearview mirror at myself, hair tied up, sunglasses on, the Camaro rumbling underneath me like a loyal animal, and I realized something. The greatest victory wasn't the canceled wedding, or the silence of the Carter family, or the Instagram post that had quietly gone viral, or even the sweet satisfaction of seeing Evan reduced to ordinary. The greatest victory was this. Evan didn't want a partner. He wanted an investment, a symbol, a brand acquisition. And instead of letting him buy me, I bought myself something priceless. Freedom. Freedom from their expectations. Freedom from proving my worth. Freedom from becoming a polished ornament in someone else's curated life. He wanted a ring to symbolize status. I chose a car that symbolized self-respect. He wanted reassurance. I wanted honesty. He wanted control. I wanted love. And in the end, I got exactly what I deserved. A life that fits me, on my terms. No negotiations, no price tags, no conditions whispered on a dark patio. Just me. Just peace. Just freedom.